People can't seem to figure out RVers. Are we rich? Are we poor? I've been called both, sometimes in the same comment thread. Today we're breaking down the biggest stereotypes about RVers and exploring why people can't agree on who we are. Okay, so let's talk about the stereotypes. The first one is the poor RVer stereotype. So basically, RVers are often seen as broke, that they're living on the road because they can't afford a traditional home, that their RV life is one of last resort, not something they're actively choosing. And there are some pop culture examples that reinforce the stereotype. The most famous one of all is Cousin Eddie from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. You know, he's got the whole brood there, he's mooch docking at his family's house, but he's doing so in the grossest way. He's dumping his black tank where he shouldn't. He's entitled to all the help. He doesn't want to leave. He's annoying, right? It's supposed to be funny, but there's this stereotype that the RVer is this poor loser who just mooches off of everybody else. And I'll tell you, I have gotten some really funny messages. So here's the thing. We lived on the road full-time as RVers for about 2 years. And when we set out to do this, we were in an apartment and we were looking to buy a house or land somewhere. We just didn't know where we wanted to do it. We had lived in a few different places, both separately and together. Justin, my husband, had relocated for work and we'd been different places. And we pretty much liked everywhere we lived, but we knew that we really wanted to live somewhere we loved. We just didn't know where that was. And so because we were both remote workers and we could work from anywhere, since I own my own business and Justin works in tech, we thought it would be good to go around and live different places and then figure out where we wanted to live. And because of this, we knew what we could buy for a rig. We knew what we could have for an RV setup. We knew the maximum amount we could afford and what they would lend to us. We could have gotten, a brand new pickup truck and fifth wheel. We could have gotten one of those expensive Class A luxury coach buses, but we didn't do that. We bought a nice big Class C motorhome. It was what we could afford very comfortably and still leave us plenty of room to buy a house or land afterwards. And this was factoring in the real estate market that had gone out of control, that had gone completely bonkers. So we didn't buy the maximum RV we could afford. We bought what we could comfortably afford. And not in the best case scenario, we were pessimistic about what campgrounds would cost, what we would have for maintenance, what things would break. And so our plan actually worked out fine. We knew this going in. This is advice we give to people. Like if you can't comfortably afford to full-time RV and travel all the time and you can't afford for things to break, you need to think about your setup and your rig and find ways to downsize to something you could comfortably afford because it's going to be too much stress otherwise. But here's the thing. You wouldn't know it from the comments. I remember I was posting to Facebook, Our Moving Castle Facebook, and oh my gosh, some of the comments I got. Things like, ha ha ha, you're gonna be broke your whole life. You're wasting money you could be on building equity and you're never gonna be able to afford a house because you spent it all to be YouTubers. Like all this stuff, like, oh, you idiot. RVs are depreciating assets. And I mean, it's true, but we actually factored that into our equation. We knew our own personal financial situation, our life situation, and we made a good decision for us. We're actually very conservative about money. But they just assumed that anybody that was in the RV was going to be overstrained and having problems or making bad financial decisions. And it's not the best way to build wealth to buy an RV, but there are other ways to build wealth. In addition to home equity, there's other investment strategies which we use plenty of. Our careers are both upwardly mobile. We have really good career strategies and plans where we've actually made more money. So home equity is one strategy. We also used to have a house back in the day, which we ended up selling to do a corporate relo. Long story, but yeah, we had the proceeds from our old house as well. I had a windfall from my business. I had a really big contract I had gotten that was very unexpected. That was like a 6-figure payday. There are all these other factors, things that people don't know about our situation. So it was a big payday that I had gotten that was very unexpected, very fortuitous. So people in their situation, they really thought we were broke and that we were going to always be broke. And they were very like, taunting us. I was very surprised by this. Now, the funny thing is that there's another stereotype about RVing that's just as common and completely backwards, and I was not prepared for this emotionally, and that is the rich RVer stereotype. So sometimes people are like, Cousin Eddie, you know, but other times RVers are viewed as wealthy retirees or luxury travelers with million-dollar rigs. So Clarence Thomas, the Supreme Court judge, he got into this whole thing where he had gotten a free RV from somebody and there's appearance of impropriety. I'm not going to talk about the political implications of it. But what I thought was really funny is every time he talked about the RV, he wouldn't call it an RV, he wouldn't call it a coach bus, he'd call it a motor coach, his Class A. He's like, no, it's not an RV, it's a motor coach. I'll see if I can find the actual either sound or the clip of him saying it so you can see what he actually said. But
one of you enjoys traveling cross country with your spouse in a 40-foot RV. Who's that?
Well, that's technically incorrect.
It's not an RV.
It is a motor coach.
Is that bigger than an RV?
Well, it could be, but it is a better vehicle than an RV. An RV is normally built on a light truck chassis. A motor coach is a tour bus. I mean, it's old, but it's really nice.
Guys, a Class A, a coach bus, is a motorhome. It's also a motor coach. It's also a coach bus. There's many names for it, but he was very not wanting to be thrown in with the Cousin Eddie. He's snooty, no, I am of the $1 million class, which I thought was really, really funny, just the defensiveness about it. But I've run into this as well, even though we have a Class C. I mean, it's a bigger Class C. It's a brand new Class C. It's a nice looking Class C. And we had a cute little Jeep we were towing. I mean, the Jeep I got a good deal on. It was a used, but it was low mileage, and I butted heads with a couple of salesmen in Texas. I got a deal. I really put the screws to them. My dad raised a good negotiator. But I've had people say, oh, it must be nice. You guys must have infinite money. You're living the dream. They kind of would suggest we have endless funds to travel, which, we don't have endless funds. We figured out how to make this work. And for us, there was this kind of balance because here's the thing. One of the big deals for us was that it was not only a place we could live while we relocated and figured out where we wanted to live, it's also a place where we could live while we were doing the real estate deal itself. So it gave us the flexibility to wait for a stale listing on the housing market that we could grab and scoop up and get a good deal. It waited for us to wait for the time that the market was actually starting to dip a little and interest rates eased a little bit. I mean, they did for a hot second, and things cooled and we were able to get a good deal on the house. So honestly, between those factors, we probably saved, oh gosh, I hate to say this, but probably a good $70,000 on the price of the house because we were not up against the wall. We didn't have a lease. We didn't have a house we were trying to sell and get out of really fast. We had all the time in the world. We could have spent all winter just looking at houses and taking our time and waiting. We weren't under the gun. We weren't under any time constraints. And I think that is very helpful as well. It's something that people don't really think about, just the ways that it kind of offset a lot of the expenses of the trip. But yeah, people were really like, you're made of money, which is like, I don't know, we're made of money. We're pretty good with money. We're working hard. But that kind of brings me to the point, what's the reality? If people have these two different stereotypes about RVer, what is the actual reality? Here's the reality check. Most RVers are actually in the middle of those two stereotypes. RV life can fit a wide range of budgets, from affordable DIY solutions all the way up to the high-end living where you got the rockstar coach bus. There's something for everyone. And for us, we're in the middle somewhere. We're doing okay, but we're not made of money. And RVing isn't about being rich or poor. It's about lifestyle choices. It's about having that flexibility. Thing is, you can extend yourself and get the really fancy thing. And I mean, there are people out there that are in little tiny pop-up campers that have more money than I'll ever touch. That's the thing. You can't even make assumptions based on what somebody has for a rig. You might see somebody in a Class A and they are leveraged to heck and back. they're just barely affording that thing. And then you could see somebody in a pop-up camper who earns more money than I'll ever make, and they're just happy being out in nature, and they just bought something small. I mean, like, you don't know. And you don't know whether it's somebody's full-time rig or their weekender. You just don't know. But yeah, RVing has a long history of being associated with both financial struggle and luxury. So I don't think it's going to change. People are going to make assumptions, and sometimes in the same thread, I remember that was the funny thing. It was a post I had that went semi-viral, and people were laughing at us for having spent money on an RV and how we were going to be broke forever and how we probably couldn't afford it. The same people were like, "You're made of money," and it was the same thread. And I was like, y'all are both wrong. Instead, there's this diversity of RVers. You've got full-time families, full-time workers like us. You've got retirees of all different income levels, remote workers, van lifers. The common thread isn't how much money we have, it's the freedom and adventure. There's a couple of myths that go along with this. So RV life isn't always cheaper than a house. It can be. It depends on the RV. It depends on the house. It depends on if you're staying in parks, or boondocking, if you're staying at RV resorts, what have you. Like, it can really, really depend. Not all RVers are traveling the world with unlimited funds. I'm sure there are a few of them. That's certainly not us. We're working stiffs, and I've known people that were making it work on tighter budgets, but I also know people who did have like money to burn, you know, it all depends. Plenty of us fall somewhere in between the extremes. So anyway, I just want to say something because it's been crazy and I just wasn't prepared for it coming into this, like how much people think it's both and yet none, and it's like, ah. So I just wanted to ask, if you're living in an RV, have you ever been judged for it? Are people jealous of you? Do they feel sorry for you? Like, have you had both happen at once like we have? Let me know in the comments. But anyway, it's been great talking to you as always. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.